How's it going, everyone? My name is Kaimana Idika, and this channel is going to basically be dedicated to the journey of being a quote-unquote still teen author trying to self-publish a novel. Basically, I'm 18 years old, technically still a teen author. I guess I could be a respective adult author, I'm not too sure yet. But I'm still kind of new to the whole game of publishing, not so much writing, so... But this whole channel is just going to be about, for one, my journey creating this novel, what inspired me to create this novel. Whenever I get onto the structural editing and the just nitty gritty portion of getting the book ready to publish, and then finally the moment when I can publish a book and hold it in my hand, the most, I guess, compelling moment, the most jaw dropping, in awe state moment that I'm going to be in. But today, just being the first episode in this series, I just wanted to start out by saying the book is completed as of right now. I'm not going to really give away too much about it, besides the fact that the book is completed. The first rough draft is completed, meaning that nothing has been done in order to revise or change or alter anything in the plot, grammatically, structurally, anything like that. This is the 100% original copy of the novel, totaling at around 339 pages, roughly 109, 110,000 words, right around there. And just to give you guys a gauge on how long it took me to write this, I started writing the original book, which was a completely different plot, a completely different setting. Just everything was opposite of what the book turned out to be. I started writing that, I believe, October of 2015. I started writing this particular novel with the same title and everything. It was just a completely different concept. But this novel in particular, excluding that whole first portion, the roughly 50,000 words that I completely trashed, it was probably a year and a half's process. And I think that was mainly because I just finished off my senior year, and senior year was kind of the one year that you had to grind to finish everything and just stay on track before graduation. So a lot of this novel was written actually in early summer, in early May and June. This is when I just started getting back into writing. I started around maybe chapter 16. There are 22 total chapters, and I finished chapter 22, which was the last chapter, a few days ago actually. And I'm kind of taking a hiatus right now. I'm taking a break. Well, this structurally edited, and we get this version of the novel just cleanly sorted out before publishing. And I'm using CreateSpace right now. I don't have an ISBN yet. I don't have an ISBN or a barcode for my book, and I don't want to buy one off CreateSpace. So whenever I get the editing portion done and I get this book solidified, I'm going to then go on CreateSpace and I'm going to get my ISBN, get my book cover shot, and then put it all together and see how it lays out. I still don't know what fonts I'm going to be using. Right now it's still in Times because I just started writing it in Times New Roman. But now I can change it over to whatever font that I want. I'll be able to set the page dimensions to whatever I want it to set. And actually, there's a bunch of novels to my left right now, and I'm going to go pick out one that I think should be appropriate. So for those of you who know the Melissa Marr series, this book is in 8x5. Just the entire novel itself is an 8x5 book. On my Doc, on my Word document, it's around the same thing. It's roughly 8.5 by 6 nearly. But that was just because of the margins and the length of the page and all that. So I'm going to probably change it to something more traditional, play around with it a little bit. Paperback books normally don't want them to be super fat. So I don't know if when I put it in CreateSpace, I'm going to have more pages than already I have here. I have size 14 fonts, so I can always reduce the font size as well. We're kind of getting off topic. So I'm going to get into character development and just designing a character for your novel. My main characters in particular, it was kind of difficult to write, the two of them, because my story is a first-person perspective novel, meaning that the main character is telling the story from his point of view, from his eyes, excluding the few amount of times where it cuts to a different scene where the main character is not present, then it's all third-person perspective. So it's kind of a camera view of what's going on. I have a male and female protagonists who are my main characters. And let me just say, the journey to design them and the journey to get them fine-tuned to where they are today took a lot of revision, a lot of random snippet writing, a lot of thinking, and just, all in all, doing random other things besides placing them in the setting of your novel. I don't know how many of you use things like this, but I have in these two books countless amounts of notes of just, let me just see if you can, it's just all notes in here from my novel series. And this thing I bought in November of 2016. November or October, one of those two. I bought this from Kmart, and I literally carried this pocketbook around with me, and whenever I got inspiration about one of my characters, this is literally my safe haven to remember everything and anything about any of my characters are in this book. I also transferred it digitally onto my computer as well, and also transferred it in here. So this composition book is actually one of the last versions of this list that I have. It's kind of blurry, so I don't know if you can really see it. But on the front, I have a basic description, so anything from their hair length to their weight, their hairstyle, strengths and weaknesses, if they have a love interest or not, their fears, their aspirations, their lineage, just anything and everything that I can place into my novel come later in the book series or later in book 2. And on the back of this, on the back of the page, I actually have a full-blown description of them, so literally a short backstory about them, how they came to be in the position that they're in, anything that's happened to them that could traumatize them or could motivate them to do something. If they're the protagonist, what drives them to be the driving factor to be a hero, or if they're the antagonist, what drove them to that life and being one of the people who brings tyranny onto the rest of the characters. For example, my main character's name is Amber, and she is a main character that was hard to develop mainly because of the nature of my book. It's a supernatural novel. So without giving too much of it away, that's basically the genre that I had to write it in. And for those of you who read supernatural fictional novels, mainly it has to do with characters who either live in the human world or the mortal world, the mundane world, or characters who have special powers that were brought up differently from humans in their world. And for Amber, it was no exception. The two main characters, both Amber and my main character that the story is told from, lived in two separate worlds completely. Just their mindsets were completely different. So coming up with two completely different identities was the first hard part that I had to overcome as far as writing goes. And when you add in a lot of different other characters, the one thing that I had to do while writing the book in its early infancy, I had to stop at around chapter 6 or 7 because the characters were meshing together, and not in a way that they were getting along, in a way that they were becoming one another. And I had to really step back, and that's when I started utilizing this more, and I started taking time sitting outside or going and sitting out in nature, or just clearing my mind and thinking in different situations of what each character would bring and what their personality truly was. Was a certain character shy? Was a certain character strong? Was a certain character weaker in some senses? Who held the team together? Who was the one to depend on? Who was the one that, you could not depend on in certain situations? And it's really just a lot of fine-tuning as your book goes along. Like any good novel that you read, character development is one of the things that you really look for in a novel. If there's no character development, then it's just like you're reading about the same thing over and over again. Nothing new is going to happen, no growth is going to occur. And that's really the main thing that I guess hindered me from writing further during my school year, was the fact that I had to develop these characters more than I should have when I first started writing. When I first started writing the book, it was literally just those two main characters. I did not think I would end up having over 20 characters at the end of my novel, all of them being different identities, all of them having different backstories, all of them being different characters with different abilities and different traits, different strengths and weaknesses. And it just adds up, and to have something to organize yourself in order to keep track on what you're doing really helps you out. If you try to keep everything in your head, eventually, I mean, it works for some people, but for me personally, I couldn't do something like that because I would end up writing Amber as somebody else in the novel, and then you would have just a conflict of interest, and you wouldn't know. You'd basically get lost as who was talking to whom, just the fact that your characters were becoming one another when you don't really want them to. So my main tip for people who are trying to develop characters is, I know it's going to be stressful, but put them in situations that you wouldn't normally imagine them in your plot before you even start writing your plot fully out. The way that I wrote my novel originally, before I scrapped it, was just writing it straight on, just writing everything as I just thought that, I thought it seemed fit. But when I got that little experience, when I got into writing, then I kind of took a step back and plotted out everything that was going to happen in the book, saw if everything was together, and if the plot all fit together basically. And then I started writing the novel over again. And even before I started rewriting the novel, after I completed the plot, I thought about my characters, put them in different situations, filled out sheets saying who they were, saying what type of people they were, saying where they came from, what their backstory was, why they were the people they were today, why they do certain things that other characters don't do, and why certain things affect them more than it affects other characters. So, my main thing is a lot of English teachers or creative writing teachers, I don't know, this is from my personal experience, will give you what's called a character, well, we called it character list, and that was basically your character's name on the top, and everything below was just describing your character further. So it's not bad to fill something like that out. You can always give it a try, but I'm going to probably wrap it up for now because that's a really long video. But if you want to, follow me on Instagram. Well, I'll have something pop up right here, but this is my writing Instagram, my main Instagram. And be on the lookout for my novel coming out probably at the end of 2017 if everything goes correctly. But yeah, until next time, happy writing, and I'll see you all later.